so as I said, like many people would be interesting to hear about the science communication part, but I would like to ask how you get into that. When I first heard about Caltech, it's way before I come to the science field. It was through the Big Bang Theory, the first early days, and you can tell that. So that being at least linked to you guys there at Caltech.
Well, let me just say that in many circles, I am famous above all for having had a speaking role on the Big Bang Theory.
That's
I
great.
and I was on one episode of the Big Bang Theory, and I said no. That was my speaking role. No, and that was enough to make me famous.
That's one of the things that I first saw physics, some of it through the Big Bang Theory, or at least some of what I'm interested about, the particle physics in general. And then, good. So that's being at Caltech happening. Does this impact you? It was before it that you thought about the science communication, or after that? Does it play any role at all?
Well, I was interested in science communication right from the beginning, even before I became a physicist, and so throughout my career, I spent some portion of my energies on science communication to non-scientists, and I encouraged my students to also do that and to develop the skill of being able to communicate to non-scientists about what they're doing. That's very important. That we both owe it to our fellow citizens because they are the source of funding. They are also the source of the young people that we train to become physicists, and so our enterprise is, in some sense, a collaboration with the general public. Um, the I'm most well known, I think, in terms of science communication for the role I played in the movie Interstellar, as you were probably about to.
Yes, it's one of the, as I said, many people get to very interested about Interstellar and how the science being baked into the story of the not only physics, but I think also some biology, some geology there too. Like some physics was the main player, but also you mentioned before that it was more than science or at least the science advisor for the movie. I think you start by having writing something first. That's you called it the warping side of the universe before the new book, of course.
Yeah. So what happened? This movie was an outgrowth, actually, of a failed romance. Uh, uh, Carl Sagan, who was a close friend of mine, introduced me to a movie producer named Linda Obst in 1979, a long time ago. And Linda and I dated, but in the end, I was too much of a nerd for her, and she was too intense for me. But we became close friends, and so I advised a little bit on Carl Sagan's movie and her movie. She was the producer, Contact, and then after Carl had died, sadly, a few years later, she phoned me up and asked if I would like to brainstorm with her for a movie. And I said, sure, that would be fun. And maybe through a movie, uh, I could inspire a lot of people about science. And so we did that. We brainstormed, and the movie became Interstellar. So that's how it started, just with her and me. Um, but in the end, of course, it was the Nolan brothers, Christopher Nolan and his brother Jonathan Nolan, who made this movie really a fabulous success. Linda and I wrote what's called a treatment for the movie, which was a description of of a story and characters, but in our case also of the science that was embedded in the movie from the start, and that became the thing on which this uh, Jonathan Nolan, as a screenwriter, took off from our treatment that we wrote. and he and his brother Christopher Nolan changed the story almost completely, changed the characters, but kept the science. The movie we began with, Linda and I, had the heroes going through a wormhole to a vicinity of a black hole and some adventures there and return. So it was similar in that respect, but the human story was quite different, and because the Nolan brothers are superb storytellers, and that's not my great skill. But it was a collaboration in which I brainstormed first with Linda, then with Jonathan Nolan, and then with Christopher Nolan for the science underlying the movie. And when it came to the biology, Linda Obst and I brought in a set of biologists. We actually had a dinner with lots of wine and free-flowing discussion and a tape recorder. Well, sitting in the middle of the table, and we discussed the issue of what could be the science underlying the necessity for humanity to move off of the Earth.
Yeah. If you can fix it over here, you don't need to go to space. Like getting to outer space is way complicated than doing things.
Why could it be so bad that you can't fix it and you've got to go?
Yes.
And so all the biology in there really came from advice from, in particular, in this long dinner. It was a 3 or 4 hour dinner at the Caltech Faculty Club of brainstorming together with the biologists. And throughout the whole process, we brought in the very best experts on the relevant science, and we brainstormed with them. So in the end, this movie really is based on real science to a degree that is perhaps unmatched by any movie, but the other movies that come close to it would be Contact and 2001: A Space Odyssey, and more recently, The Martian. So and that's about it. 2001, followed by Contact, followed by Interstellar, followed by The Martian would be the set of movies that I can point to that are deeply based on real science.
That's great. Like, seeing this scientific pictures turned into like a movie, not only that people can relate to it in drama, but also in science. As you said, the science had been baked into a human story, a human being story, the story of humanity. How can we save the humanity at the end?